Welcome to Women Economic Forum 2016. A very warm welcome to here for this grand event. I heartily congratulating to all of you to be a part of this great event. Now today's session topic is global warming. Know your eco burden and your carbon footprint. So it will be handled by our panelist, Dr. L. Baldaki, and he is from Ain Science University, Women's College from Egypt.
This is one only information. I'm from Ain Science University, not the Women's College. I'd be proud to be the Women's College. I am the chair of the Dry Land Development Commission. And this information you have before.
And our second panelist is Mr. Sanjay Nagarkar. He is from Hong Kong. So now I am going to hand over the session to our panelist. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Colleagues, I always think of the quality of the participant rather than the number. I do appreciate that you are around, and Mr. Trump is not going to like you for being here. But anyhow, we are not here to please anybody. It's a very serious matter which we are facing. Do you hear my voice? It's all right. Okay, and we are faced by increase of temperature, which could really hit the 6 centigrade by the end of the century. But this was IPCC number 4, IPCC number 5 has confirmed this, not only confirmed this, but the speed the temperature is increasing is far beyond what we have anticipated, and therefore climate change is moving, and all our hopes now is to put a brake at 2 centigrade, and we may lose the battle and it will arrive to 4 centigrade by year 2050, which is frightening. But at that time we will have water stress index, and you can see the extreme water index around the world, which is affecting a lot of countries. The water scarcity is going to be imminent. Here I'm talking about less than 500 cubic meter per person per year, 5,000. And then in this case, if you go under the 500 cubic meter, you are in acute water poverty. These countries, which is flashing, they will have acute water poverty by 2025. This increase in temperature will affect the diseases for the plants. It will affect the formation of the fruits. It will affect the microflora under the ground, and especially it will affect the nitrogen-fixing bacteria. All the microflora, as well as the insects, will be affected. Natural resources, soil, you have physical erosion, you have chemical impacts, there is salinity which will be affected. The dry areas is going to get drier, and there is 2.5 billion people who are living there. They are going to suffer. There is emerging and re-emerging animal diseases out of this change of temperature. Any organism which has life into it biologically is thermoliable, and therefore the impact will be on the animals. There is in-depth studies on this, as well as aquaculture is going to be affected. There will be the economical fish, as we know, is going to change to predators. The plankton, especially under Latin America now, there is an area which is as big as Latin America. The type of plankton is changing, and this is the main food for the aquatic life. The high water temperature is going not only to affect the coral reef, but it will affect fish production as well. And as a whole, we will have about 50% reduction in agricultural production and food production by year 2050, which is staggering. Imagine that now we are heading for 9 billion people on this planet, and this 9 billion people, we need to double our food production. Now we will have 50% of the existing food production, which is a great challenge. The industrial countries are not going to be affected. This is good news for the industrial countries. But Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, Asia, developing countries are going to be affected tremendously. Overimposed on this is the increase in temperature, is melting the ice, the poles and the ice caps on the mountains, and the increase in seawater rise could arrive to 80 centimeter, and this is 80 centimeter as height, but with the waves and so on, you are talking about 1.5 meter to 2 meter. There was a study by the World Bank looking at the deltas of the world, and out of 60 deltas in the world, the most exposed deltas is the Mekong River and the Nile River, whereby the impact on the people, there will be massive immigration because the impact will be tremendous. This is in my country, in Egypt, we will have only with a slight increase of 0.5 meter, you will have a population which will be pushed inland, and all the industrial installations as well as any ports and so on is going to be invalid, and therefore there's great damage which could happen. That if the level of the water will be 1 meter, you'll have about 6 million Egyptians. They have to go down. Egypt now is 90 million, and this is very disturbing. I mean, we didn't listen to this man when he was talking about global warming. He has this movie of An Inconvenient Truth, and he said, this is a wake-up call, but no politician was listening, and you can see what Mr. Trump is saying nowadays, that he will tear apart all the agreements, especially the agreement in Paris on this. This is a World Bank study where they emphasize why a 4 centigrade warmer world must be avoided, because it will be great catastrophe for all of us. Superimposed on this is the financial tsunami which is happening. Why we are bringing this? Because the ability of people to absorb shocks of climate change, the financial issues are very important, and therefore we have to be careful. When we look at the developing vis-a-vis the developed countries, we are talking about $312 billion subsidy for agriculture in the industrial countries. The developing countries, especially the small farmer, and especially the woman farmer, and the feminization of agriculture is happening in a lot of countries in Latin America and in Africa, and some places in Asia as well. We will have change of the cropping patterns all over the world because the ecosystem is going to be different. And this change needs new knowledge, because one crop you are accustomed to, like cassava, is not going to be suitable to this area. Therefore, in your valley, you have to plant something else. Then you have to be taught, this woman farmer here, she's struggling, but she knows a couple of crops. If the weather changes, she doesn't know how to handle other crops. Then you need packages of knowledge to be delivered to her. The reason for hunger, as we all know, is a poor harvest or low yield, high food prices, and economical crisis, low income, increasing unemployment. All these are connected together. Therefore, we need to double food production, as I said before, in the next 30 years. Then, let's sum it up. All what I said is just frightening, and this is the world at edge. What we can do? The only way out from this is knowledge. How we can use knowledge to look at the way forward. And therefore, we need to look at science and technology tools. If you please, colleagues, please. Therefore, we have the new tools. We have the remote sensing and GIS, GPS is not the same like 5 years ago. There is a change into them. The title is the same. Biotechnology, genetic engineering, gene editing, gene mining, simulation modeling, information technology, like the expert system, advanced artificial intelligence, renewable energy, wind and solar and biogas, new energy-saving techniques for desalination because you need the water coming from the sea now, and then nanotechnology and biosensors and bioprocessing and nanomaterial. We need to use science and technology, including behavioral and social science, because you cannot do this with hard science alone. I mean, people has to be with you. Then the social science is very important. We need to generate and apply new knowledge to develop innovation pathway and effective impact. The whole story is summed up in adaptation and mitigation. Mitigation is a concern. If we stop all the gases which cause climate change now, totally, if we stop it totally, it will take us from 70 to 80 years to see a dent on the increase of temperature. Then for us in the developing world, I'm from Egypt, and for all the countries in the developing world, the mitigation is a long term. What concerns the farmer in Colombia, in Mexico, in the Dominican Republic, in Asia, what concerns them is adaptation. What I do now to face this increase in temperature, I need to have new genetical makeup, different varieties which will tolerate heat and drought tolerance to biotic and abiotic stresses, as well as we need new agro-management techniques which save water, like in irrigation and nutrition. And then we need massive program for capacity building. Then the lady farmer, which I showed you her slide, she will have new knowledge, and her children will have new knowledge built in with the human resource development program for them to face this. I don't want to emphasize this. It goes without saying that education, innovation, cooperation is the name of the whole thing. We need, in genetic resources, we need to preserve our heritage of the biodiversity by putting it in gene bank, and I was the vice chair of the Global Crop Diversity Fund. We built with the Norwegian and the Nordic Bank a vault in Svalbard. It's an island in the pole, in glacial ice, and this is to preserve about 6 million accessions and varieties of the seeds from around the world. This is our board. Here I would like Manglarai is from India. He's heading the Agricultural Research Council here. The lady here, the late lady was a Nobel Prize winner. She was with us on the board. And all this effort and the effort of everybody in the world was to save these genetic resources. If we save these genetic resources, we can include it in breeding programs, and these breeding programs can use genetic engineering or without genetic engineering to produce crops which will have less water and give us more yield, and it will have stress tolerance to the high temperature. This is drought resistance corn. The next one is, the first one was wheat, which ICARDA Center, which